Welcome to the Planning and Economic Development Special Committee meeting. If we could stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's start with roll call, please.
Mrs. Root, Mrs. Hanchett,
Here.
Mr. Barnes, Mr. Curran,
Here.
Mr. Havey,
Here.
Mr. Healy,
Here.
Mr. Ricky,
Here.
Mrs. Ricketts Swales.
Here.
6 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, it says County Administrator Chris Knapp has something to bring to the floor. Okay. Be Allison Cure, our county attorney.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
The county administrator is requesting a resolution to apply for a New York State CDBG 2024 Public Infrastructure, Public Facilities, and Community Planning Grant, and to hold a public hearing to discuss the merits of this application. The public hearing would be held on July 18th at 2 p.m. At the board meeting at the Allegheny County Fairgrounds in Angelica, New York. The funding request is for $50,000, and this grant funding would be used to complete a housing study of the current housing trends, conditions, and projected needs of Allegheny County.
Okay. So let me just ask a quick question. This is kind of twofold. It's the fair, but it's also moving forward with pulling together our housing study.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, I see that, because we had an MOE for that in January on that, so to get a RFP put together.
That is correct. So there would be a resolution coming off the floor at next week's board meeting for the public hearing, and then there would be a resolution on the 18th after the public hearing approving the application to apply for the grant funding.
Great, sounds good. It's something
Sorry,
that's
I'm a
really
little
needed.
tongue-tied this afternoon.
Something really needed for economic development, so happy to see it come forward. Do I have a motion?
Havey will move it.
Healy will second. Any comment?
Yep. The next thing I will ask is if there's any comments or questions.
This will also, all this information that we gather through this study that we plan on doing will be useful for applying for further grants, not only for us, but for our local municipalities too. Is that correct?
That is also my understanding.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes, I have a couple maybe. Can we spend our own money first and then be reimbursed on this grant?
I am not sure. I would have to refer that question to the county administrator.
I was hoping she'd be here. I have a few other questions, so I guess I'm going to hit you with them. What's the odds of getting this grant, number one, and how long is it going to take to get this grant?
So, from my experience here in Allegheny County, many of the CDBG grant applications that we do apply for, we are successful in receiving. However, there is no guarantee that we will receive it, but we do have a good track record in getting those grants. And I cannot with certain say what the turnaround time is, but they do seem to come in a pretty not super quick, but it doesn't take us too long after the application is submitted for us to find out. They've got their own time requirements. I would have to probably look and see what guidelines they have forth. Again, that's something that the county administrator could probably give you a better answer on.
I guess I'll just make a comment then. It's 50 grand's a big amount, but it's not in the whole scheme of our budget. we've all known for years that we need a housing study. I think we spend our own money, get the thing, instead of waiting possibly a year, and then asking the public what they think. I think we know we need one. Let's just pony up, spend it, and do it. Then we'll be 2 years ahead. I think we'll save that money tenfold. Thank you.
I agree with John on that. I know at one point we talked about it last year and in our January 17th meeting. And at that point, we were talking about using ARPA money for that, for the 50,000. But I also understand under different conversations, what kind of study is needed now. Do we have other information from other entities that we can pull together that might cut down that $50,000 to go through a public hearing and for the grant?
I do, yeah, I am not really sure about if there is any other information that we could use.
This is just to apply for the grant, is that correct? And we
That is
have the
correct.
public hearing, so.
That's all that's
Yeah.
all that's being requested at this time.
Thank you.
Okay. Legislator Stockton?
I just affirm I'm with Mr. Ricky on this. I've already been telling people that we're doing this.
Me too.
Every meeting I'm at, they ask about housing. Housing is an issue.
So I do believe that we are doing a housing study, regardless, no matter what. This is just a question of another possible mechanism of funding for the housing study.
Any other comments?
I say John's point of can we do this and then get the money reimbursed is big, because so many grants you can't do that.
And unfortunately, I cannot answer that question for you.
I'm opposed to it if it means waiting 2 years.
Any other comments?
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
It seems to me that maybe we're dealing with two questions here. The first question is, do we approve the going after this grant? And the second question is, when do we start our housing survey? I think those are two entirely different questions. I would agree with Mr. Ricky and Mr. Stockton. I don't see any problem with going out for this money. However, the second question will need to be dealt with, and when we begin and whose money we use to start it with. Thank you.
So you had originally talked about using ARPA money for this project. You have talked about more ARPA projects than you have ARPA funds available for. So when our group sat down to look at working on the housing study RFP after you authorized that back in January or February, we realized we probably wouldn't be able to go out for an RFP before this point in time in the year. And we knew this money would be opening up. CDBG money always opens up in June, has planning purposes in it. So Jason Eisenman from Land Bank politely pointed out other counties have used it for this. Perhaps we should look at it too. So that was in the plan. We almost didn't go out for this because we thought we'd be using this. You can only have like one application pending for this particular line item. We were going to use it towards water and sewer, but at the end of the day, that's probably not in the cards for this year on that particular grant application. So we're shifting so we don't waste a funding opportunity to put this through right now. They usually award in August, and we could then put our RFP out shortly thereafter. But you do not have funds available for a housing study, no matter what you do. So you'll have to either appropriate from ARPA, look at funding it next year, or go after grants.
Once, again, this is just so we can apply for this grant to bring in outside funding, which is how much, what?
You can apply to up to about 50,000. Your housing study probably will run about 80,000, so you'll still need to find county funds to cover the whole thing.
So I'm all for applying for this grant and trying to get to $50,000 from non-taxpayers' pocketbook. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr.
Can we, if we go do it with our money, does that disqualify us for this money? I mean, if we spend ours up front, will they?
Most likely.
I believe so. I think you need the grant award first. But you're also probably not ready to issue the RFP. We had our working group go through it. We didn't have Ashley on board. She just started 2 months ago, so we want to make sure that we had an economic development director ready to go when we worked on this study as well, so.
Carissa, can you tell me how much ARPA money is left? I thought we had small balances. In our last report that we got, we had, what was it, 400 and some $1,000?
I don't know off the top of my head. I think you're probably overdue for a cow on ARPA anyways. Because I think you have a number of things you guys have talked about. You're also probably over on a couple projects you've funded with ARPA as well. So you'll probably want to either appropriate more to some of those projects once the balances settle out on that, or fund some of the ones that you've got remaining on your tabs that you wanted to go forward on. But off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, the last report, I think, was about 400,000
Yeah.
that we had left, because also the fair is getting some other money that we had appropriated, so that money is there, correct? Because it's such a small amount, and it's so important to economic development.
It sure
And I
is.
understand this puts us back another year, because we've been talking about it for 2 years, and it's very important to economic development.
I don't think it puts you back another year. I think, we're not ready to issue the RFP anyways. We wouldn't be probably till later this summer. This puts you back a couple of months, maybe 2-3 months. So I'm not that worried about a bigger delay waiting to see if we get this grant or not.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes. So say we go through the hoops, we do get the money, and then we go out for an RFP. Is everybody else who applied for this going for an RFP, and then first come, first served, there's nobody to do the study? I just think we need to get moving on this.
Perhaps. I don't really know. I know Wyoming County is going out for it. I don't know about any other county. And last year, one town got it. You can look at the awardees by year. I went through last year, and only one other community in the whole state went for it. So I don't know who else is going for it this year, but I did see Wyoming County's public hearing notice.
Well, we could still put out an RFP.
Right. It's
I'd
almost done,
want
isn't
to
it?
run that by Delta, whether we could do the RFP before you got the grant award. Your RFP has to have the legal requirements of whatever grant you have,
Okay.
so if
We
you.
certainly don't
yeah.
want to jeopardize
Some,
anything.
and some have, like, some funding streams require you to have MWBE, some don't. We'd need to know if that's going to be in here before we went out for an RFP.
Any other comments? I kind of look at this, and I want to make sure that if we have the funding, we can go ahead and spend it instead of waiting on this. So I don't know if it puts it back too much if we table it. I know we have a special meeting for this, and I know, you know that it's important. I just don't want us to get into a bind when we're looking at that amount. And I, too, have been telling people for quite a while that we are doing a housing study.
This action here is to set the public hearing for the application. And, when you do the resolution after the public hearing, it'll be for authorization to apply. Certainly, you don't have to accept the money if you get it. If you want to go ahead and use other pots of money, you can do that too. But if you don't take the action now to do the public hearing to apply by the end of the month, you're going to lose the opportunity to get $50,000 for this. So my suggestion would be move it forward, and, you can make your decision along the way if you want to use other funds or not.
Any other comments on that from the committee? No?
And again, this is late notice because we also have a public hearing coming up for the water and sewer for this pot. We just learned that we probably aren't ready for that water and sewer this year. So we're just shifting strategies so we're not losing out and not applying for anything. We want to make sure we have some application for CDBG money out there.
Okay, I guess at this point, I am in favor of moving forward for the grant, but I don't want us just to rely on that. I want us to look at other pots of money, so when we get to that point, because like I said, it's so important for economic development. And like I said, we've been talking about it since first part of January, if not a little bit before that, so, and
Yep. I think whatever direction the board wants to give us, we'd be happy to take on where to fund this from, so.
okay. Any more comments, sir? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, it passes. Okay, next on the agenda is unfinished business, and I think we kind of talked that out. Any other unfinished business that anybody else wants to bring up? Okay, new business? Good of the order? May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Healy.
Second, Havy.
Thank you, we're adjourned.